Taylor Swift got married, and people reacted like she signed a law. I watched Swiftologist's video, and I think he is right about one thing. People are absolutely projecting onto this wedding. The New York Times piece, the TikTok discourse, the tradwife panic, the guest list outrage, all of it. A lot of people are clearly using Taylor's wedding to talk about their own issues with feminism, class, taste, wealth, and celebrity. But where I disagree with Swiftologist is that I don't think the answer is to replace one projection with a smarter sounding one. His basic argument is this wedding is the logical endpoint of Taylor's story. If you really know the catalog, if you really follow the themes, then this was always where she was heading. Big career, big love story, marriage, partnership, all of it. And I get why that argument works. It is way more thoughtful than the people acting like Taylor getting married is some kind of feminist collapse. But I still think it puts Taylor in a box because now the critics are saying this proves she regressed and the defenders are saying this proves she fulfilled the arc. And I'm sitting here like, why does everybody need this wedding to prove anything that definitive? That is my real issue with this whole conversation. Taylor Swift is not a solved text, her lyrics are not legal evidence, her eras are not a personality test, her discography is not a constitutional document that can settle once and for all what she really believes about marriage, ambition, intimacy, or womanhood. That is where I think Swiftologist goes too far. He is very good at identifying bad criticism, he is smarter than most people talking about Taylor online, but he also has this habit of turning Taylor into something fully legible, like if you just read closely enough you can explain her whole deal. And to me, that is still a kind of box. It is just a nicer box. Look at the Bolan piece for a second, because I do think people flatten that article too much. What she is really expressing is a mix of aesthetic disgust, class discomfort, and feminist disappointment. She thinks Madison Square Garden is tacky and unromantic. She thinks the wedding looks too big, too rich, too imperial for this moment, and she thinks Taylor maybe caved to a more conventional script than people expected from her. Now I think Bolan overreaches. I think she gets melodramatic. I think she takes her discomfort and turns it into a giant statement about what Taylor means for feminism. And I don't buy that, but I also don't think the correct answer is to go, actually no, the lyrics prove this was always destiny. That is still overreading, it is just more elegant overreading. And the reason I care about that distinction is because the whole wedding discourse has been full of people acting like they have special access to what this event means. On TikTok, you had people calling it tacky, people calling it tradwife coded, people spiraling over the guest list, people doing fake photo sleuthing, people policing what attendees wore, what they posted, whether the privacy was real enough, whether the whole thing symbolized elite moral rot, whatever. And obviously some of that is just internet behavior, but some of it comes from the fact that Taylor is in this impossible position where she is treated like both a person and a symbol at the same time. That is why I want to be careful here, because I do not agree with framing her privacy like some kind of theatrical stunt. She is one of the biggest stars in the world. There have been real security concerns around her concerts. There have been real threats at that level. Privacy is not some cute branding exercise. It is a safety issue. It is a dignity issue. She is a human being. And I think people lose that way too easily when they talk about her. The media was always going to be there. Fans were always going to care. People were always going to want details, leaks, photos, symbolism, proof, meaning. That is what happens when someone lives at that level of fame. So I don't think the existence of attention automatically means she is manufacturing attention in some cynical way. Sometimes it just means she is a megastar trying to live a private life inside public conditions. That matters to me because I think a lot of commentary about Taylor, including smart commentary, can quietly slide into treating her like a machine instead of a person. And that is where my disagreement with Swiftologist really is. I don't think he is wrong that people project onto Taylor. He is right. I think he is wrong in thinking the better response is a cleaner interpretation of Taylor, because Taylor does not need to become more legible here. We do not need a final answer on whether this wedding proves she was always the girl from Mary's song, or whether it proves she sold out, or whether it proves feminism failed, or whether it proves she is secretly traditional, or secretly strategic, or secretly whatever. Maybe the mature answer is just she got married. And because she is Taylor Swift, that wedding immediately got dragged into every anxiety people already had about celebrity, money, romance, womanhood, politics, and public image. That does not mean those anxieties are fake. Some of them are real. If people feel weird about billionaire spectacle, okay. If people feel alienated by celebrity excess, okay. If people feel uncomfortable when every private milestone becomes a giant cultural event, okay. Those are real reactions. But the leap from that to this reveals Taylor's true essence is where I get off. And honestly, that leap is exactly what I'm tired of from both critics and defenders. The critics want Taylor's wedding to mean betrayal. The defenders want Taylor's wedding to mean fulfillment. And I think both sides are demanding way too much certainty from a person they do not actually know. That is why the phrase I keep coming back to is solved text. People want Taylor to be a solved text. They want the wedding to close the case. They want to be able to say, See, this is who she really was all along. I just don't think real people work like that, and I definitely do not think mega famous people work like that. Taylor's art can tell us a lot about the stories she likes, the feelings she returns to, the myths she builds around love and ambition and longing, but it cannot settle who she is in some final way. And I think pretending otherwise is where criticism starts turning into possession. That is why Swiftologist's take, even though it is much better than the dumbest reactions, still doesn't fully work for me. It is still too neat, too confident, too sure that Taylor adds up cleanly if you just read her correctly, and maybe she doesn't. Maybe she is contradictory. Maybe she wanted different things at different times. Maybe she contains both resistance and conventionality, both strategy and sincerity, both grandeur and vulnerability. Maybe the point is not to flatten all of that into one arc, because the second you do that, you're back in the same trap as everybody else. You're still turning her into a lesson, and I don't think Taylor Swift's wedding is a lesson. I think it is a wedding, a normal thing for a person to want, a happy thing, a personal thing, and because it is Taylor Swift, it also became a huge cultural event that everybody wanted to interpret to death. That is the weird part. Not the wedding itself, the reaction. So yes, I think Swiftologist is right that the backlash is full of projection, but I also think he still likes to paint Taylor into a box, and my whole point is maybe the most mature response is to stop needing such a definitive box for her in the first place. That to me is the real reason everyone's acting insane. If you enjoyed this take, please consider subscribing.